Welcome to Buddha's in Your Landfill. It's Sunday morning, and I woke up this morning. I wake up early and I meditate, facing the east, where the sun rises. And when my meditation is over, usually there is a beautiful sunrise dawning outside of my window. And this morning I looked on the shelf, and I think last Christmas I'm not sure when it was, somebody gave me this bulb and in a little jar to water. And I noticed this morning that the crocus had bloomed. And so it was like the spring, the morning, the dawn, and something in myself was blooming too. And so I want to pick up where we left off yesterday, because I want to carry this theme, this overriding theme of my crazy story, so we can kind of like find the universal themes in our own lives, because we all have a different journey, but there is only one theme of awakening, the awakening of the soul, the awakening of our destiny, the awakening of our center, this spring that we know is beneath the surface, this crocus that wants to come out, this flower that wants to bloom, that we know is there, but we don't know how to make it happen because we try so hard. So let's take a look just to remember where we are from yesterday. I hope you go back and catch up on these. But we had talked about the decade of the 70s, which started out in Hope House, went through two yoga master gurus, Swami Rama and Muktananda. I went to India and landed in Blackstone in 1981. Feeling that I had my center, that I knew who I was, what I wanted to do, what my destiny was, what my purpose was. And it was not too long that I realized that all I had in Blackstone was the feeling that it was a place where I was going to be buried in the tomb of the unknown yogi. I just saw that. And the tombstone in the Blackstone Cemetery, and the thing, here lies the unknown yogi. So I lost my center because it was dependent upon guru, meditation center, Siddha Yoga, Light of Yoga Society. In other words, I had found my center, but it was referenced to a guru. It was referenced externally. So it was not my free center. It was a center that was dependent upon a system or a placemat, you see, something external, you know. And so when I came here, Blackstone didn't support my external reference. They didn't. Who cared if I had a guru? What's Siddha Yoga? What is yoga? What flavor is that? I like blackberry yogurt myself, you see. So this soil, the Blackstone soil, did not support my externally referenced center in who I was, you see. And this was very important. It was devastating because it really created I was schizophrenic or psychotic or certainly depressed. There was no work in Blackstone in the 80s, if anybody remembers. The only thing in the newspaper was a dairy helper and a Raleigh salesman, and that was it. You know, there was no work here, especially creative work. So anyway, the story of the 80s. I didn't want to get into that so much today, except that the 80s was the loss of center and a finding of the center here in Blackstone. But I think, well, I do need to tell you how, because I think it wasn't until 1987 that so for, say from 81, I came back from, landed here like Mr. Bean in Blackstone, just blow, boom, and then running around, where am I? And so it wasn't until 1987 that and there was a lot of story in between those years there. Basically, it was trying to break out unsuccessfully. So when I did finally, I got a job with the Courier Record writing about Blackstone. I restored my center. And there was a great shift then, because that was the first time in my life that I stopped thinking about where I was going to go next to find my center. In other words, it was here. And so I lived my whole life, you see, with my bags packed like a military family waiting for the next orders. You know, where's your next duty station going to be? You know, where are they going to send you next? So we're just here for a couple of years. So I continued that all through my life up until this point here. So it wasn't until I actually began to have a creative purpose. I couldn't believe I was getting paid to write. Creative purpose, that I restored my center, yet there were still more centers to go. But we'll stop with that right now and come back to this idea of what is the center. And I wrote, and let's come back to this blooming flower, this crocus. And in the morning, one of my habits is, first of all, I write a meditation on Eckhart Tolle, and called Meditations on Eckhart Tolle. It's a page I have. And I also write on Basso's haikus. So in the morning, I get high on ku, and this is what let me put this up and we'll take a look at this, because I wanted to share this with you, because it has something to do with the understanding of poverty. So this morning's haiku that I turned up, and I don't know what they're going to be, and I read it. It says, come out to view the truth of flowers blooming in poverty. Come out to view the truth of flowers blooming in poverty. And of course this morning I had, I had already seen and brought this down, this crocus blooming in poverty. And so this is what I wrote, and I'll share this with you because it has something to say about where our center is and how do we find it. So I wrote, an invitation to come out of my rooted earth and view the truth of my flower blooming in emptiness. I feel like that this morning, a flower blooming in the early spring, anxious to feel the light on its hands, face, and finger. It's been asleep too long. What calls the flower out of sleep? What makes it stir in the deep? What is the poverty? So emptiness, poverty, means no gaining idea. The flower blooms for no purpose. The bird sings for no song. The flower blooms when the cold mind no longer holds it. The flower blooms when the warmth of poverty fingers down into the shivering earth and touches the bulb of the heart. It is safe to come out now. The ego will no longer bite you with its frosty teeth. You will not be cut and put in the vase of the ego for show. You will not wither as the ego's trophy. You will not be held hostage. You will not be prostituted and sold to the highest bidder. You will not be put on display nor made to perform. No. You can come out now, for I have learned the meaning of poverty. So what is this poverty? My mother, I tell this story often, I may have told it to you, but when my mother was 100 and we were driving along talking about happiness, and she was very happy in her old age. I never thought she was old, even though she lived to be 102. She was never old. And so she said, you know why I'm so happy? And I said, why, Mom? And she said, because I have no future. And there was a big pause. And then she said, when I was younger, I had a future and I was not so happy. But now I have no future. Because being 100, you don't have much future. I get up and I'm just grateful to be here. And I thought, why should we wait until we're 100 to discover that? You see, so this whole idea of poverty is being free from the tyranny of future. Future is time. Future is gaining idea. I need to be something. I need to get somewhere. I need to find my center. I need to have a purpose. What is my service? Where am I? Where do I have to go? I've got my bags are packed. I'm ready to go, you see. This whole idea of I will be in the future, but right now I'm kind of poor. I'm poverty, you see. Well, that you have to reverse that. If we are if we're empty of time, we are very rich, you see. It is time that makes me poor. So when the spring flower blooms in poverty, it's blooming because it's not blooming for a purpose. It's not blooming for time. It's not blooming for tomorrow. It doesn't care if you see it blooming or not. It's just blooming. That's what it's just blooming, you see. There's no time involved in this, unless we look at it and observe it and then say, oh, there's time when we observe something, but from the inside, there's no time. So think about that. You see, we live in a objective world of it. So everything is in it, including myself. So I look at myself as in it and I say, well, I'm kind of lacking here. I need something. You know, I need to get somewhere. I need to find my center. I need to have approval. I need to be successful. I need to be, you know, all these things we need to be is a view because I see that I'm poverty. I don't have any, you know, poverty. But that's because I'm viewing myself as an object. And objects are in time, you see. Objects are things, and things are in time. They rise, they fall. Born, die. Everything is in time. So when I look at myself and the world in time, right now everything is pretty poor. But when a shift happens, when we fall into the sinkhole, if you go back through the story, when we fall into the sinkhole, we fall out of time into our heart, into our center that is always right now. And that is poor of time because now is not in time. You see, now is always now. This whole time you've been listening to me, it's always been now. It's now right now. And it's still now. And now it's now. And when you leave here, it'll still be now. It's always now. There's no time in now until we turn and look at it objectively. And then it's stretched out in time. Then it's got to pass. The moments we just talked were past, and I got future moments coming, and there's time, you see. And the present moment, the timeless now, is we bridge right over it. Like a little red bridge on a Zen pond. You know, we jump right over now to get to the future. But poverty is being empty of time. So you're living right now. You're blooming right now. Your center is right now, you see. It's all here. Everything you need for happiness is right now. It always will, right now. Everything is right now. It's not in time. But when we live now, we don't lose time because we can still catch a bus and everything. But the primary poverty, the primary root, you see, is now. So when the root of our mind is in now is always blooming. Now is always creative. Now is always a flower blooming in poverty. So I think we conclude with the story I'm unfolding here, and this is an unfolding because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I wake up in the morning and something blooms, and I come down here and share the flower with you. Your center. I talk a lot about the center. All during the 70s, I wanted to be a meditation center leader. I wanted to be at the center. and to speak from that center. But the center I found and depended upon in that particular stage of my growth was dependent upon an external reference, you see. And so when we go through our centers, what we're going through is false centers. So we find a center maybe in a relationship. Oh, this person centers me. Or I get a job, my job centers me. Or I get a new house, my house centers me. Or I get a child, my child centers me. So we keep finding these external references to our center, but these are really false. They're good centers. I'm not saying there's not anything wrong with them, but I'm saying they're not your true center, because these are rising and falling centers that will not last. So we're always going to lose it. You can't hold the center when it's dependent upon something that's going to die. You can't hold, the soul cannot be blooming when it's dependent upon something that's temporary, you see. So what we're looking for is the center that is not dependent upon time. The center is timeless when you discover it. The center, your soul, is timeless, you see. So it's not dependent upon things. Yet you still do things, and you still run around, and you fix stuff, and you have things, and you get relationships. You still play in time, but your center is timeless. And this is what we're all looking for, but we have to find it by eliminating false centers. Now, if you're on a spiritual path and your heart is hungry for this, you're going to force the loss of centers that are not true. Most of us just have them taken away through death, fires, destruction. You get fired. The loss of center is something that is ripped from you, so you cling to it and you cry and you grieve for the loss of center, you see. But the spiritual seeker, the hungry soul, is going to welcome this death, this loss of center, because that's the only way to evolve to the next level of your journey, until you finally come to a place where you are poor of time and poor of external references. And in the spiritual journals, this is called Dark Night of the Soul, where the soul can has no more external reference for its being, and so it suddenly awakens to its own source, its own being as the center. And this is life itself, awakening like a flower in the spring. So let us end there today, and we'll pick up tomorrow and explore more deeply into this loss and gaining of our center. So I'll see you this evening. It's a martini time. Okay?